Hi, this is Oliver and welcome to our fancy title animation tutorial. First I want to show you what we will create. So this is what we will create today. So we have this title sequence which is flickering, glitching and doing some fancy things. And we will use for that two plugins. One is called Platoon, which is a trial version downloadable on aascripts.com. so that you can follow this tutorial. And the second plugin we use is from AAScripts, the brand new Transition Master Pro. This is mainly a plugin to do some very cool transitions in Adobe and DaVinci Resolve, but you can also do some very cool VFX things with that. So these two things are for download, and yeah, let's get started. First, we create a new composition. We make that 2016 by 858, which is a cinemascopic format, but you can choose, of course, whatever size you like. We have 25 frames a second and 10 seconds long, which means 250 frames. And we have a black background as always. So first is we need some text. So go to the text tool and type in the text you like. We call it the master. And then we resize the text so that it has a size we like. Let's say so. That looks pretty cool. And then we go to the align tool and align that center-wise so that it fits to the center. So one thing is if you don't like to download Platoon and you don't like to install that, you can use here also a texture. For that, simply use a texture and drag that underneath your text layer. Scale it to a size where you like it, for example like so, and then choose the track matte mode to alpha, and this is what you get. And this is of course totally fine to use and to go on with the tutorial. In case you don't see the track matte, you get some little icons here where you can hide and unhide these options. Okay, so but let's go on, and we'd like to texture this text with Platoon. So go to the effect and presets, type in Platoon and double click on that, and we'll start with a checker pattern, and I simply go to my pattern section. I choose some halftone patterns and I choose this one here, and that's what we have. So the next thing is we scale that a little bit down. Let's say 75% should be fine, perfect. And we have to change the blend on alpha channel. And we will use for the blend mode source luma, and for the alpha channel text luma. And if you unhide the black background, you will see this is the result. So we got some cool alpha channel going on here, and this is what we like to have. So next is we have to pre-compose the text layer. Select the layer and go to layer pre-compose. And we call that title. Move all attributes and hit OK. Next is we want to duplicate that layer, but do this in the project settings. So select the title, string Z, string V, copy paste, and then right click and rename that to lines, and bring this lines comp into your composition, and then double click that. So here's the text, double click the text and bring in some lines. In our case, I use line, space, line, space, line, space, and so on. Here we go. Next is I will also align that to the center. Go to Align tool, center that, and then bring it slightly down because I'd like to have this slightly underneath the text layer. So this is what we have so far. So what we like to have is we like to have some coloring going on over the text and the dotted lines here. So I go with a double click back to my lines layer and select the text layer, go to my effects and presets control in the Platoon settings, and here we have tint color, and I want to give them some reddish color, something like that. Okay, and then go to the tint opacity, and this is exactly what I like to have. I go back to my comp layer and to the title layer and do the same thing here. Select the text, go to my tint color. In this case, I'd like to have some bluish one, something like that. Bring up the tint opacity. Now this looks good. And this is what I like to have. The next thing is I'd like to have a background. For that, I go to Layer, New Solid. So Layer, New Solid. I call that BG for background, make it comp size, and hit OK. And of course you can apply a texture to that, or use a texture instead of this solid. Bring that underneath the both pre-composed layers. In our case, I use again Platoon. Go to Effects and Presets, double click the Platoon, and I choose some ground patterns. And I want to choose this one. I think that looks very cool. I will scale it also down, let's say 70%. Here we go. Yeah, that looks cool. And next thing is make the layer 3D and bring in some light. Go to Layer, New Light. We'll leave the light in white, this is okay. And go to P on the keyboard, or to Position, and bring this a little bit closer to the background layer. So until we have some cool dark edges, some kind of vignette. Okay, I will center that light a little bit like so. And this is very cool for the basic setup. So next thing is we like to apply these glitchy moving things here. For that, I select my title layer, I go to my Effect and Presets and type in Transition for Transition Master. I will drag that onto my title comp. And this is what we have. Basically, this is a tool to make transitions in After Effects, Premiere Pro, DaVinci or Nuke, but we use it in this case as a VFX tool. So first is we have the target layer which stays at title, okay, and we have some presets here. All these presets are installed. Even if you try the trial version, these presets are already here. And we use the Block Horizon Remap B for that. And now if you play with the transition duration, you will see what happened there. So it starts to do some fancy things here. And we like to have that randomly over time. So this is where we need a wiggle expression. For that, Alt stopwatch click the transition. So you open the expression window and type in wiggle, parentheses open, open parentheses, 1, 1, close parentheses. Okay. The next thing is we need to effect control. We need two slider controls. For that, go to Effect, Expression Controls, Slider Control, and one more time, Effect, Expression Control, Slider Control, or duplicate one of these things. Right-click the first slider control and rename that. So we call that, let's say, times. So this is the value in which frequency we'd like to have the glitch. And the second one we rename to volume. This is the volume we like to affect the transition effect our text layer or title layer. Okay, so this will be at basic 4 and this will be 100. And if you preview that, you will see the normal wiggle expression, which is 1, 1, and there's no connection between these settings and the sliders. So we have to connect that. So put in the first, select the first value so that it's highlighted, and then take the pick width tool and drag that to the times slider and leave it go. So now you got wiggle effect times slider. Okay, and the next is we select the second number one and also pick width tool to the slider volume and leave it go. What After Effects expression does in this case, it deletes the last close parentheses. So I have no idea why, maybe a bug in After Effects, but make sure to do a close parentheses, otherwise you will have an error which looks like this. If you click here, you got this orangish bar here, and so make sure everything works with the close parentheses. Now everything works as it should be, and we have two values. We have value 4 and 100. This is now connected to the wiggle expression, and if you make a quick preview, this is what you got. Yes. So we'd like to have the same thing for the lines. So for that, I simply select my Transition Master Pro and with Shift both slider controls. Control C for copy, go to the lines, and Control V for paste. And now I have exact the same behavior. So we are still on the lines layer where we pasted our effect. The target layer is still the title, but it should be the line. So the same layer as the effect is applied should be here in the target layer. So now we got the effect on both of the layers, as you see. And of course you can change the behavior of this by choosing another preset. On some presets we have some kind of blur going on, and this is where you can run into some issues. I will showcase you how to do and how to handle it. For example, if you choose the C rotation glitch, you will see everything is black, and this is because we have some motion blur over this in the preset, and you simply have to select the lines and set the transfer mode to add, and then you're ready to go. So this is the only thing you have to keep in mind if you have a black background. There's some blur going on, as you see here. This is very freaky, and we leave it. Let's see what happens. Okay, so a few things to adjust that and to give them a good look and feel. So the first thing is I'd like to have some glare here on the left and right side in blue and red, and we want to have some glow over the title sequences. So first make the glow over the title sequence. Go to title, go to effect and presets, and type in glow. And we will do 3 instances of that because that gives you a much better result of the glow, and you can use this technique also for other projects where you use the glow. So first is I try to keep the threshold on the beginning as close as possible. So you got here a little glow. I will bring down the radius to something like 1, which is a very short radius, and the glow intense down to 0.5. Next is I will do a copy of that, string D on a keyboard, and I will bring up the radius to something like 100 and the intense to 1. So this gives me this little soft bluish glow there. And I will do my last instance, string D on the keyboard, and we'll bring the glow radius all the way up to over 500, up to 600. Okay, and the glow intense down to 0.2. So that's not overdone, and you got this bluish thing here. And now you can play with the threshold, and you can bring the threshold up, let's say all the way to 100. Which gives you more glow. If you don't like that this much, bring down your threshold to something like 30, and this is the result. And maybe you want to, this is maybe too much here, this bluish, so we go to glow 2 and bring the radius more up. Let's say 250 could be fine. Yes, that looks quite cool. And I like to have the same glow settings, of course, for the lines. So I select all of my 3 glow instances, string C on the keyboard, select my lines, string V to paste them, and this is the result. And the last thing we have to do is animate that over time. So that's why we had these 2 slider controls here, the times and the volume. And for that, I first unhide that here and bring that down, organize it a little bit. I go to my title, and I like the animation to start at frame 20. So I go to my slider and volume on times and bring them down to 0, so that we have no animation until frame 20. Then I go 1 frame forward by clicking the page down button and give him a volume of 4 and 100. So this is now, it starts with this glitchy flickering. I go all the way to frame 100, hit E on the keyboard to show my effects, make up my 2 slider controls, give them 2 keyframes at the same value, 4 and 100, and also again go forward 1 frame, or let's say we make a smooth fade out. I go to here and give him the value back to 0 and 0. So now nothing will happen there. So as you see, this is not the behavior we like to have, and this is because we played with the transition settings on the beginning of the tutorial. So make sure to set that to 0. So now everything looks good and fits best. So here we go. And of course I have to reset that all to 0. Here we go, and now it starts here. And in the preview we'll see here is our flickering. Okay, so we need the same behavior for our lines layer, so I will unhide that. And you can either keyframe the both settings here or simply copy the keyframes from your title animation. For that I go to my times and volume, go to my first keyframe. I can get rid of these, sorry for that. Select all of them, string C on the keyboard, go to your controls in the lines layer, times volume, make sure that this is on the same position. Select both of these, times and volume, string V on the keyboard, and you will have them exactly the same way here. Make sure that the transition also starts at 0, so here we go. And of course I think we have to adjust, no, this is perfectly, so now you have both things animated over time. So the last thing before we do the final preview is we like to have some glare, as I told you before, here on the left and on the right corner. For that, go to Layer, New Solid, make it black and call that glare. Okay, next is we need a ramp effect, so type in your effects and presets ramp. We choose this gradient ramp, so let's set that up. Bring the black point to something like here and the white point to something like here. So this is quite cool. Let's zoom out a little bit. I'd like to have it here, so it got so much smoother edges here, something like that. That looks fine. And then let's tint the white to some bluish. That could be fine. Yes, that looks good. And then copy that or duplicate that, string D on the keyboard, and bring the bluish corner to something like here and the black to something like here, so that we have this bluish black ramp from here to here. And of course we'd like to have it reddish, so go to this color tool and go to some reddish color. Let's choose this one, some darken reddish. That looks cool. And now select both of them and set the transfer mode to add, and we're ready to go. Now we have both glares here, some reddish, some bluish, and we have the animation. And let's make the last preview. So this is what we have. We got this cool glitching, rotating going on there. So the cool thing about that technique and this plugin is, for example, if you go to your titles sequence, and we have this text layer here, so let's simply unhide that and bring in some Illustrator artwork, which is a logo we created for one of our clients, which is a B2B customer, so there's nothing commercial there. And let's bring that in, and here we have it. Let's scale it up, and maybe yeah, so this is a black color here, so maybe let's invert that just to showcase you. Invert. Yes, looks a little bit ugly, but it goes from the main thing. So this is a Illustrator graphic, so click this little star icon here to get all the vectors there inside, so you see the difference. So here it's quite not sharp, and now here we got all correct vectors. If we go back to comp, you will see that that works also with this logo. What we have to adjust is, of course, the glow. So let's get rid of this glow for now. And you will see that the behavior of this is always the same. So everything works in this nested comp the same way. So we'll have the same distortion over that as you see here, as you have with text layers. So you can put in some vector graphics, you can put in some logos, some PNGs, whatever you like to. And you simply have to adjust the glow, of course, because this was trimmed to the master settings. But this is a very cool thing and a very handy thing to simply change this preset to a vector logo of your choice. And of course, you can simply choose or simply switch the effect of that by simply using here, for example, let's try TV noise glitch hard. Let's see what that will look like. So this is this, and let's do, yeah, look at that. So this is very fancy, but you see how easy you can change this by simply choosing another preset, and you got this effect running, and you can import whatever footage you like to. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this short tutorial. Hope you like these plugins, and we see us in our next tutorial. My name is Oliver. Thank you for watching, and bye.